So I think when we hear this term global health, oftentimes in the media before COVID-19, many people thought of global health as health in developing countries or a few infectious diseases like HIV/AIDS. And I think one thing that's very clear is that COVID has reminded us global health is really about the health of the global population. But it's also very much about interdependence and how we are all relying on each other in some way to protect our own health. And we can see this very much at the local level. Of course, I rely on other people to wear a mask or to get a vaccine. But this is also true at the international level. We have countries very much depending on each other to ensure public health. And we also have sectors depending on each other. So the health sector, of course, depends on trade and the economy for economic growth, for the generation of wealth. But the trade sector also very much depends on the health sector. And we've seen in COVID-19, without a minimum level of health, trade can absolutely come to a stop. Economies can come to a stop. Another lesson that we learned, especially in some of the wealthier countries that were not used to dealing with infectious disease outbreaks, is that you have to act early, you have to act decisively, and you can't really wait until you have all of the information that you need. I think it was very difficult to convince policymakers, to convince decision makers to do this 18, 19 months ago when this pandemic was first beginning. I hope in the future we will have learned our lesson, and we have to take what's called a no regrets policy, where you act very quickly and hopefully you sometimes overreact. Overreacting is better than underreacting when it comes to epidemics. We've seen many different roles that companies are playing, of course, producing the goods we need, whether it's from face masks to vaccines, to some of the essential supplies that we all rely on. So of course the economy has to continue functioning in some way. Where I think we haven't yet paid enough attention is what is it that small and medium enterprises can do in the area of technological innovation. And what we see more and more, especially in the pharmaceutical sector, is that new medicines, new vaccines, new diagnostics, other kinds of technologies are increasingly coming from SMEs, whereas before we relied on very large companies for a large proportion of those innovations. But innovation can increasingly come from smaller firms. For me, the big question is, will SMEs engage in the same business models as the big firms, which can create lots of challenges for public health, or will they engage in different business models? And what I mean by this is, will we have new entrepreneurs who are running smaller companies, trying to ensure that they're meeting the public interest, that they're developing health technologies, for example, that are affordable and available to everybody as a part of their business model. And I think in many ways it's easier for smaller firms to actually experiment and try different business models than it is sometimes to change very big firms. So that's my hope for the role of SMEs in the future.